There's that. Okay. There's that. Seems to be mostly good. Okay. So Twitch is having some technical disruptions and stuff. So if you guys experience anything, go ahead and just post in the chat. And I'll do my best to fix those. I'm just kind of going through and setting up the project real quick. So let's see. Okay, let's go through and add in all of these filters again. States. Okay. So, base NPC goes there. Bullet goes to entities, core, states, lives, I think it's entities, yeah. Main game, main guy, main menu, map, score, speech is an entity, and the windscreen. So there's that. And let's go through now and add in these. So again, we have core, and we have entities, and finally we have states. And again, we have our base NPC, bullet, enemy, entity, entity manager, game over, game state, lives, main game, main guy, main menu, map, and we have enemies, and we have NPCs, which we can delete for this project. Player, bullet, we'll put other entities for now. Save system, I think we put that under core. And then we have score and speech, which are both entities. Oops. There we go. And windscreen. Okay. There's all of that. Now, let's go through and add in the directories. So I am just over here on this other monitor copying all of this from roll call. So it's all just pretty basic. I'm not really going to show that, no need to. Additional dependencies, import, apply, okay. So there's all of that. That should of course crash and not build because we don't have, well, I guess that will work. Okay. So, now that we have that all situated, next we need to take mob1, mob2, npc1, and npc2 out. Rebuild that. Now we're getting our errors. So these we want to remove. So, now that we have all that, let's go through and show what this all looks like. So you'll remember we had a roll call from last time, which was our this is the wrong project that I copied from, so let me go through real quick. Actually, I forgot. This should be from Jumper. So we'll just go through and sort this by type, and then just copy over those. It shouldn't be too hard to do. This is our most recent one. Then the things that we don't need. So let's come in here now. So that. These we don't need. So we can delete those. Don't need any of those. That we can delete. Those are just DLLs. That we don't need. Don't need any of those. So we can leave those alone. Okay. There we go. Build, rebuild. Let's see. So, I have a question. What does SFML do? SFML is the library that we use to do things like rendering graphics and such. So normally you'd have to use something like OpenGL or a third-party library to render stuff, or low-level stuff. In order to make our lives easier, we're using a library called SFML. So if you're interested in that, you can go to this webpage here. I'll post it in the Twitch chat as well, so you'll be able to see that. And let me just post that there's slight delay with the there's a slight delay with me explaining stuff. So basically this is a multimedia library. This basically will let us go through and load images and stuff onto it, and be able to render them more easily. So here is the game from last time that we made. The only downside right now is that we have our wrong level being loaded. Let's go through and update the graphics, I guess, real quick. Copy sounds and stuff. Now if we come in here, you can see that we have our basic level here from before. We're able to jump around. The reason I chose it above OpenGL or DirectX is because I don't want to spend, I don't want to spend 4 hours trying to set up OpenGL or DirectX just to render some nice little textures or anything. Hey, D-Carbon. I don't want to set that up to render textures and stuff. I want to spend hours doing that. That's the stuff that, I'd like to go over that in future videos, but I don't want to go over that right now. Basically, this lets us go through and just focus on the gameplay, which I think is a much better starting point. In the future, I'd like to go through and do some OpenGL work. Specifically, I'd like to go over some 3D stuff, and then we can go over how you can mess with the perspectives and stuff and set it up to be 2D, but have 3D effects to it and stuff. But that'll be at a later time rather than now, mainly because it's just a much higher level thing at the moment, and there's no need to go over all of that just to do a simple 2D platformer. So yeah, this was our game from last time called Jumper. If you were here last time, you'll remember it's just a simple little platformer. The code is, of course, available in the GitHub repository. But what we're going to do today is our library at the moment has been geared up towards something like this. And, we have all these cool tools we can mess with and stuff, but we haven't really talked about how exactly you can use this to do things outside of RPGs and platformers. So what I want to do today is I want to go an entirely different game route. I want to go over how to use this to do a Breakout clone. And the idea with this is that this is a totally different game style. You know, there's collisions and stuff, but they're not super precise. You know, it's a lot easier and stuff. So this stream's probably going to be a little bit shorter today. And I've already done a Breakout clone in the past, but this is really going to focus on how you can use a tool like this to do so. And if you've ever used something like Unity or the Unreal Engine, you'll know that, like, you know, those are generally geared towards first-person shooters and stuff. And so this is kind of a cool way to see how you could turn something like that into being able to use it on a totally different game. So let's go through real quick and let's go ahead and update our initial stuff to say some different stuff. So let's go ahead and title this from Jumper to Breakin. And then we will come over to our core state, or no, not core, states. We'll go to main menu, and we will rename this to Breakin. So we've got that all ready to go. And then we have our main game state, which right here is what we're going to be mainly focusing on updating. So the first things first, we need to talk about like what exactly Breakout is. Some of you probably seen it. I'm just going to go over it real quick. Google Breakout, you can see a lot of different games. So here's a pretty good example of what it looks like. You know, you got some, you have some bricks up here that you have to break, and a paddle and a ball that you bounce around to get it to go. So let's go ahead real quick. We've already got a ball, 2 paddles, and what we're going to do is we're actually just going to really quickly rotate these to the right so that we have our images for that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come in here and edit this with GIMP real quick. And I'm just going to make these white. We're going to do some pretty cool stuff with all this, but we only really need a white paddle to be able to do this. So let's go here. We'll do that. Fill with that. If we zoom in, you can see that it's a little rounded, so that's perfect. And then we will save this as brick. And we're all set. We have our ball, our brick, and that's about all we'll need. So now let's go through and see here. So we have our main game there, and we have our stuff here. So in this case, we don't need our base NPC. We technically don't need the bullet, but I'm going to keep that, and we're going to repurpose that to be our ball. And our enemy, we're also going to keep, that's going to be repurposed. Lives, of course, we still want that. Player bullet is something that we'll still probably want, I guess. We'll go over that a little bit more in a bit. And then we have our main guy, which, we're going to keep that because no need to get rid of that. We're going to need that. Score, again, we're going to keep. Speech, we're going to keep for instructions, but we're not going to use it in the same manner as normal. So you'll see what I mean by that. Of course, we want our win and our lose screen, so we'll go ahead and keep that as well. So, big things we're going to want. First off, we don't need enemy ammo or player ammo. We do need our game over, and we do need our save system still. We're going to use that to do a simple score system, so you'll be able to see high scores and such, or you know what the highest score is. We'll go ahead and leave all this. Keep that. We have our is pause text, our font. We have a pause key and our enter key map, and we have an entity manager. And in this case, we don't actually need a map, so we're going to get rid of that. So let's come down here now to main game. All of that's fine. We can get rid of this map. And our main guy no longer needs the map. So go ahead and we'll leave that. And now we'll come up here. Get rid of that requirement there. There's that. And then we can get rid of that. So there's all of that stuff. So we're all set with that. Let's come over here to main guy now. So our main guy can still remain as the ship. We're going to leave him alone for the most part. The big thing we are going to change, however, is we're going to take out a few things. So we're going to leave the speed. we're gonna take out the X and the space key. We're gonna take out run and jump. We're going to keep direction. We're gonna take out map, and that'll be good enough for right now. Let's go ahead and remove all of this stuff. And we don't need that. So we don't need any of this. So this was our scrolling stuff from before, so we're just going to bring that out. For this, again, we don't really need any of this. We don't need our jumping stuff. We don't need to worry about that. We don't need any of that. And we'll keep that. We don't need any of this. And then we can get rid of this. Well, actually, we'll go ahead and we'll keep this. What this is going to do is, this was originally so if we went to the side of the screen, then we would basically transition to a new map. We're going to keep that, but not for that reason. Go ahead and remove these. Excuse me. Okay. And we can go ahead and remove this for now as well. So, we have our basic main guy. What we're going to do is, if our X is less than that, then we want to set the velocity to 0. Because we don't want to be moving anymore. So let's go ahead and run this real quick. Should work. Let's come over to here. We need to get rid of the save game. So now we have that. Now the only downside is that our velocity is not set up properly. So what we want to do is we want to set this dot move. Move him in the negative X direction, which will bounce him off the wall just a little bit. So we have that, so that we don't end up worrying about that. Do you have a model M? I'm not sure what a model M is. I'm not really sure what a model M is. Let's Google that. Model on keyboard. No, my keyboard is just this little Dell thing. Let me see if I can find it. It's a nice one. It's got some media keys. Knob. Not a nog. Knob. Ah, here it is. This is the exact keyboard I have right now. So, only difference is it's not wireless, it's wired. But, you know, I don't mind that. Just more cables is the only downside. But, yeah, that's what my keyboard looks like. It's got all those nice little keys up here, so I can, like, bring up my calculator with a push of a button. Ta-da! Magic! So, you'll notice I have my calculator set up in a nice little binary mode here, which is pretty useful as well. So, let's get back to this now. So, we have our basic movements. Let's go ahead and move him to the bottom of the screen. Yeah, it comes off kind of mechanical. I'm not entirely sure why. I think it's just, you know, the way that it's... I think it's just a key, you know, a decent Dell keyboard for once. I don't know. All my other ones are pretty terrible for them. It's got definitely a much more mechanical feel. I think it is mechanical, but I'm not entirely sure. Get size Y minus. So what we want to do is we want to put this at the bottom, and then, well, actually, we don't even need to worry about the main guy having his position set. He's always going to appear in the center of the screen, so we don't need to worry about anything else with this. So we can actually just get rid of all of that and clean that up a little bit. Minus this. Get global bounds, not height. And then the X is going to be the same thing, but we need to center him. So what we're going to do is we're going to put him in the center, and we're going to subtract the width divided by 2. And that'll put him in the center of the screen at the bottom. So, here and play. Oops. I should have minus that over 2. That should have worked. Let's see what's going on. Oh, that's why. Because that right there needs to be X, not Y. Yikes. Oh. Over 2. There we go. I'm failing today so far. Ta-da! Right in the center. So, we have that, we have our lives, we have our score. So now all we need to do is we need to get some bricks going. So let's go through, and what we're going to do is our enemy. We're going to repurpose him to have a similar setup. We can actually keep the health for some other cool stuff. So we'll go ahead and do that. And we need to come down here to entities, and we can get rid of base NPC. Delete. Let me go through and make sure that those files were deleted. Bullet, keeping. I can't remember what all we've deleted, so we'll just go through and do this. Base NPC, come here, here. There we go. Clean that up just a bit. Okay, so there's that. Have our enemy there. We'll come here and remove the map setting because we don't need that. So we have all of that. The last thing we're going to do is we already have our bullets there set up, and let's make sure now that we have bullets here all set up. So their type should be, they should be set to 4, if I'm not mistaken. Group ID is 2, probably to go at our main guy. So let's see here, player bullet, what do we do here? Yeah, so that's just an extension of bullet. What we can do now is let's go through and rename some of this. So we'll rename this from bullet to ball, and we can go through and delete player bullet. And then we'll come down here, rename this to ball. Remove the map again. And again, remove the map here. There's that, there's that. We don't need to check for the collisions there. And we have a specific distance it can travel, but in this case we don't need that as well. So go ahead and remove that, and remove that. And remove that. So, there's that. Now, the other nice thing is that we can get rid of the direction as well. Well, we'll go ahead and we'll keep that for some fancy stuff. And there's all of that. Okay. My apologies for that. Be right back in just a second, so give me 2 seconds. Sorry about that, guys. Just had to take a quick call. So let's get back to this now. Alright. So, we have all of that ready to go. Let's see how this is all looking. So where are the errors? Right here. We need to change that to ball. So, now that we have all of that, so what we're going to want to do is we're not going to want to do the collisions with the enemy, because the problem with that is that our enemies are actually going to be more expensive and costly to do that to. Though, I guess in this case it doesn't matter all too much. Most computers can handle these kind of collisions, so we're going to just keep it like that. I'll probably have some kind of video over best practices at some point. So let's go through and update all of the IDs. Group ID for him will be 1. Group ID for bricks will be 2. And group ID for these will be 3. And actually we will do collisions in the ball class instead. So we'll go through and remove that. And what we'll do is we will take this, put that there, and our entity is going to have his health removed. So what we need to do is we need to cast him as a, so we need to do reinterpret cast, and it's going to be instead enemy, which means we need to come up here and include enemy.h. So this is a way you can cast things pretty nicely in here. And in this case, it will be entity. Health. We need to make sure the enemy's health is public, so we can do stuff to it. So that'll go through and let us subtract health from there. And in this case, the enemy is 2, if I'm not mistaken, is what we set it for, right? Yeah. So there's that. Next, we need to come here, and we can go ahead and delete this. I don't know why that's still showing there, though. Thought I got rid of that. So, there's that. And this we're going to get rid of. And there's that. And so the last thing that we'll want to do is we'll want to have it so if they collide with the ball, that it does stuff there. So we'll come here, that's case 3, correct? Yep, right there. Ball. And what we want to do is we'll add in a bounce function. And what this is going to do is it's simply going to bounce the ball off of by rotating its velocities and stuff. And we'll be able to do some more stuff with that in a little bit. For now, I'm going to keep it pretty simple. There's that. There's that. So let's come over to main game. What we'll do is we'll add this, manager, add ball, new ball. We need to come up here and include ball. And so the X is going to be the window get size dot x over 2 window get size y over 2, and the direction will be we'll go ahead and we'll make it 45 degrees. That way it will start going in a in a direction that is not, like, you know, going to be in the second. That's going to be going somewhere that we want it to, effectively. That makes sense. And the last thing we need to do, let's see here, bounce, update, go ahead and we'll get rid of that. We give it a graphic, shift WG, there we go, that's the problem. Don't want to be transparent. So there's that. So there's that, and then we will do this bounce for now. We'll add in the ability to lose lives later. Now, the big thing we'll also want to do is we'll want to have it be x float y. X, y, and over here, put that there. And then 0, if 1, 0, 1. And 1. There's that. Same thing there. And again, this is going to be more hacked together than normal. Ooh. Good old Windows 8 doing stuffs. So now we just need to do the same thing for the Y, or for the X. X, X, width, and X. That. And now it'll bounce all around the screen, and we can of course use the paddle as well. So now what we're going to do is we're also going to go through and change our paddle be the actual paddle, and we'll actually name this Brick. Now here's another cool thing that we'll be able to do. So let's go ahead and set the color of this to be green for our paddle. And you'll notice that we don't really have to do anything extra. Our paddle's already green, a little bit big, a little bit blocky, but it works. Now one thing you did notice probably is that our paddle was able to move off screen. That's because we are just hacking this together. So let's go through real quick, and what we'll do is we will do all this position of x is less than or equal to 0. This dot move move 0. And what that's going to do is it's going to instead make it so that we instead we have our paddle never able to go off screen, and it will make things just look way, way better. We'll not have that weird little bug. So that looks a little bit better now. You can see that it's able to bounce off. Now another thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to also go through and do a similar thing for this, where if it's still colliding, we simply move the ball up. So let's go through, and what we're going to do instead, first off, let's go through and shrink the paddle to make this look a little bit nicer. And what we're going to do is we're going to come through and do scale image and do 32. 64, and 16. That'll give us a little bit of a better looking paddle. So that's a little small. I guess what I'll do then is we will scale up the width 128 again. And that will make that look like a more natural size paddle for this kind of game. So we have that. And of course we can slow down the ball as well if we really want to. Right now the velocity is that times 3. Let's go ahead and lower that down to 2. So there is all of that. Let's double check the direction real quick. Where does it start out? Yeah, so let's go through now and real quick set it to go up instead of down. So what we need to do is we need to add plus 180. So I'm too lazy to do the math. Let's go through and actually do the math. Plus 45, 225. And what that'll do is it'll bring it around to be going upward instead to the left. So we've got all of that. And so our game is now a little bit more playable. Let's go through and do a few more changes to this. So the other thing that we want to do real quick, so if we hit it from the side, we want to, well, first off, what we want to do is we want to make sure that when the paddle hits that it moves up. So then what we're going to do is wall entity collision with another entity, which in this case track collision with entity, and in this case it'll be this. What we're going to do is we're going to move the ball up. So we're going to do entity move 0, -1. And what that'll do is that issue of the ball getting stuck in the paddle, it'll now force the ball to come up. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to hit this precisely with this small of a paddle. So what we're going to do real quick, is just for debugging purposes, we'll come in here and we'll scale this with height to be 128. And that's going to make the paddle giant. So obviously now we're not going to keep that. But it'll be able to show that this is going to work a little bit better. It's still kind of hacked together in that, you know, we're not properly detecting things, but you can see that it can't get stuck in that weird side collision issue. So this will be a little bit more stable for a game like this. Obviously, it shouldn't happen all that often, but when it does, it won't be an issue. So we have that now. We've got all of that. So what we can also do is we can also now, let's go through and real quick to check something. Okay. So now that we have all of that going, the next step, let's go through and just double check all of our gameplay elements. So we have our play and quit screen, which all work pretty well. Let's go through now, and what we'll need to do is add in our bricks. So let's go through to the main game. I know I keep saying let's go through. My apologies for that. And for int y is equal to 0, y is less than, let's go ahead and we'll say we'll add 10 bricks up and down. 0x is less than, and we'll add 5 on the x for now. So what we do is we do this manager add, and we'll just call this block. And this is going to be a new enemy in this case. And enemies just take an x and a y. Now what we're going to do is we're going to multiply this by an offset by however big our bricks are. So in this case, what we're going to want to do is we're going to first off want to change our bricks. What we're going to do is we're going to rename this to paddle first of all. That way our paddle can be its own size. Next we're going to come over to here and we're going to make sure that this is using brick instead. And then we're just going to copy paste that, rename it to brick. We're going to come here and edit with GIMP. We're going to, again, colorize this to white. And you'll see more of why I'm doing that in a little bit. I don't really want to go over it quite yet, but there's some cool stuff we'll be able to do. Do I get the ball direction stored? Because you can just turn the direction to 180 degrees and bounce back if you hit with the right side. I can do that. It's going to be a little bit trickier to do that. So the big problem with doing that is I will have to then reverse some other stuff as well. However, basically the problem with this current engine is that you can't detect the sides. And I don't really want to go over side collisions. I guess we could if we really wanted to. Yeah, sure, we can go through and do that real quick. I'll show you guys how we can do that. So what we need to do is we need to detect if the ball's x is less than, if the width is less than, basically if the ball is to the left of it, we need to put the velocity of the x to the opposite, or if it's to the right of it, we need to do the same. So what we need to do is we need to do if entity get position dot x is greater than this get position dot x plus this get global bounds dot width. So basically, if the x of the ball is to the right of this, then we're going to want to bounce with the y as well. And we're going to do that if it's in that case, or there's another condition, if the x of the player is in that same position. So in this case, it'll be this entity. So if the x of the player is greater than the entity plus the entity's width, then we want to bounce like that. Otherwise, want to do that. And what we're going to, that should be 0. So let's go through now, and what we'll do is we'll once again scale that up, and you can see how this looks. So we'll do that. So we've got this. To open up the paddle real quick. Whoops. So we'll go through and we'll scale this up just to show that. Here. So now our ship. What happened there? Did I mess that up? I did. Whoops. That's what we want that. And y is under paddle height, right? That. Where'd it all wrong go? And we'll just leave this shit. There we go. That was what was wrong. There we go. Okay, so now that we have that, let's go through and test this. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that that ball bounces. Let's see here. That. Oh, oops. Now the reason that that's not getting there is because when we do a collision, we are actually effectively, we need to add on, in this case, bx is greater than, so that plus 1, and that plus 1. Well, actually, not plus 1. It needs to be plus the entity's velocity. So in this case, velocity dot x. Because we basically need to check for some stuff. Yeah, I'm sorry for the freezing of the stream. That is a Twitch issue right now. Twitch has been basically very buggy. I'm not really sure what more to do about that. Yeah, they've been kind of buggy. Okay, so we have this. That should be there. That should be. Position of the paddle is greater than that plus the width minus that. So, yeah, I'm sorry, I can't really do much about the channel streaming. I apologize for that. This is a Twitch issue at the moment. Not a whole lot I can do. Equal to, greater than or equal to. So, right side seems to work. Let's try left side again. If the position of the player is greater than or equal to the position of the paddle plus its width minus the velocity. Oops. That would be y. Right? Yeah. Oh, man, my brain is fried today. Okay, let's try this again. Basically what we want to check is not for that, but for the y to be a certain position. Okay, that makes more sense now. Y. There we go. So if the y is less than equal to that, then we want to do that. Oh, sorry guys, bit of a long day. If the y of the player less than or equal to that plus the height, entity, move, hello there, Robex78. Ooh, yikes. Sorry guys, window was a little too big there. Should probably just go ahead. Yeah, actually, go through and move him out of the way until we're done. Only being lazy. Do I do quad against quad collisions? Yeah, it's quad against quad. I'm being lazy about the issue, guys, and I apologize for that. I probably should go through and properly check all of this. So let me just go through and do that then, instead of continuously being lazy. Okay, so first off we have to check if our position of the paddle is, basically if our paddle is within the player, if the ball is within the player. So if that is greater than or equal to position of the player, then we'll have the collision for the left side, else if, and then on this case, right side. And in this case, it should be less than or equal to position X on the right side. And so that should bounce the ball, which in this case is going to cause some weird issues, but we'll just leave it as is. So you can see that's all working now. Now the problem we're going to run into, you'll see that in a second, is when I move through it, it's going to do that because our velocity of the paddle is a different speed of the ball. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that, first of all, we need to make sure that not just this is true, but also that the y is true. So we need to do, first of all, we also need to add in the y as being greater than or that plus entity get global bounds height is greater than or equal to this get position dot y and that. And that's basically just going to check as well that we are definitely like within the paddle sprite. And then what we also need to do is we need to make sure that the paddle cannot collide with the ball a second time. So what we have to do is we have to move the paddle opposite of its velocity. And that's going to create this effect where we can't like hit, move over the ball, but I think that honestly that's going to be a little bit better at this point. Now there's still going to be some issues with stuff, but it'll work for now. You can see now that's another big problem. What we'll probably want to do is instead of, I guess, adding on the height, we'll just have it be so that if the top of the ball is like that, then we do that. Won't fix our corner collisions, but it'll fix some other stuff. So now when it hits like that, it bounces like normal, and then when it hits our side, it'll bounce like it should. Now the only downside is going to be if we do that, you'll see it kind of does that, but that'll be at least, workable. So I'm not going to fool with that anymore. Let's just go set our paddle back to normal. Collisions are a little bit weird, especially when you're doing mainly quad collisions. You know, things just don't work out as nicely, so unfortunate downside. So coming back to this, let's add in our blocks. In this case, we want to multiply that by 5, or by the width and height of the blocks. So our blocks are going to be 64 by 32, so we need to multiply that by 64 and that by 32, and we'll go ahead and we'll add on another like 10 spaces or so. So it'll be that, you know, plus, let's say, I don't know, like 10 pixels or something on each side. I'm just kind of messing around with that, but what that'll do is it'll give it a little bit more spaced out there. You can see that as it hits them, it destroys them. Let's go through, though, and make that a little bit more spread out. And what we'll do is we'll do that plus, like, you know, 5 or something, maybe. That'll spread it out a lot more. So there's that. Now what we'll also want to do is we'll want to offset this even further. So that plus, let's go ahead and say 256 pixels, which is going to make it more center screen. We could, of course, center them properly, but I'm not going to worry about that now. And actually, we're going to want to make that like 15 or something, or 20, because we want more on the width and the height. So we have that now. Let's go through and change that to 100. We don't want them all off screen. And again, that's still not quite right, so let's move that by 0 now. That'll look a little bit better, actually. So there's that. And then we'll go ahead and limit this from 20 to like 15. And we could get the exact screen proportions of how many to add. So what we can do, though, is we'll leave that at 16 in the end, and then we'll offset them just a bit. So there's that. We've got them all there. Let's go ahead now and add on 128 to here. And that'll make everything a little bit prettier. So those are all nice and centered. Now let's go through and move them down on the Y by adding on another 64 here. So those are a little bit better. Let's go ahead and add 6 to that. That'll look a little bit more centered. So we have all of that. That's all looking good now. And we can, of course, add on another like 10 there and like, you know, 10 there or something. And that'll space them out a little bit better. Generally, I don't know how much Breakout gets spaced out. But that'll work either way. Go ahead and get those centered up. So there's that. Y is less than window width over 60. So there's that. So the last thing we'll want to do now is come over to ball, and we'll want to make sure that we bounce the ball in that case as well. And we're going to want to do a similar thing that we did with the paddle, but in this case what I'm going to do is I am just we'll copy this and that. So in this case now we're changing it from using the ball, this, and then entity, this, and then this, bounce, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, So you can see that works pretty well. Bounces off just like we need it to. Only downside right now is that little bug there. So let's go through and see what's going on with that. So right here we check for the Y to be that. So we don't really want to do that. What we want to do is we want to bounce properly off of where we are positioned around it. Now this is kind of going to be a little bit trickier to modify this for. Basically it needs to bounce off of a block depending on how it hits it. So we need to be able to detect what side of the collision it's on. So let's go through. What we'll do is we will say if the velocity, so in this case we want to check for it being inside. So we have if the x of the ball plus its width is greater than or equal to the position of the paddle and the x right here is within there. Now the only downside to that is going to be that. So what we'll probably want to do is sorry guys, I'm just thinking about how to handle this. Now I don't want to get into any complex math, so what we'll do is we'll just bounce it. I'm not even going to worry about this right now, because there's ways that you can determine how a collision happened, but I don't really feel like getting into the math and matrices of all that right now. The big thing is let's go ahead and just bounce it off the Y. Now that's going to do some weird stuff though. Because it won't stop on there. Because basically the issue we run into is that we get weird gameplay situations where it looks like this. We need to be able to, you know, go through and detect that. So let's do this. We're going to modify our collision method a bit. So let's come up here to core entity, and what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to check basically what side we're colliding on. And this is going to be similar to our map system, so let's go find that. So right down here we have this. So this is going to be a similar system. The big thing that we're going to want to check for is, this is where things get tricky. Side. Just leave that like that for now. Okay. So, basically, we want to check on each side that a collision could be happening. This is going to be a little bit weird, but it should be okay. So, basically, this x and y is going to be our point of collision to start. So, float x is equal to entity get position dot x plus entity. So we're going to start on the left side, get global bounds dot width. And in this case, we can just take that out. So that's going to be our left side, and then we have float y is equal to entity get position dot y over 2.0f, because we're going to start in the center. And basically what we'll do is we'll go through and we'll just give it a direction for each collision type. So we'll come up here and we'll do type define enum. This is going to be collision direction, and we pass that in there to check side. Here, and then we will have a top is equal to 0, bottom is equal to 1, left is equal to 2, and right is equal to 3. So, change that to a Boolean, false. Come here, change that to a Boolean. Switch. Side. Case. Top. Right. Right. Left. And bottom. So, if we're on the left side, we just check for the collision there. So we have our x1 and x2. So that'll be x2, and then float x1 is equal to this position dot x. And we're basically checking on a collision. y1 is equal to this get global bounds get position dot y plus this get global bounds dot height over 2. And then this becomes entity and entity 2. And in this case, we actually want this to be the right side because of the fact that our entity, we're basically checking for a collision on the left side here, which means we want a right side here. So what we're going to do is we are going to need to check actually, I wonder. Here's an easier idea. So if we're checking the left side, then we do entity get global bounds dot contains x1, xy. So basically we check whether it contains this point here if we're doing the left side. So we'll go through and leave that there. If we're doing the top, then the y is equal to this get position dot y. X is equal to this get position dot x plus this get global bounds dot width over 2. same thing here. That bottom, we just add on the plus this get global bounds dot height, and for right we just do x plus equals this get global bounds dot width. So now we can check for collisions on a specific side. Last thing we'll need to do is do a call top, bottom, call left, call right, because we've already used these definitions before. I'm just being lazy now. There's that. So now, if we come over here to ball, if side this and collision call left, and then do the same thing, call right, and then we're going to do the same thing but for the top and bottom. So let's go through now, and what we'll do is we will subtract out, let's say 5 pixels there, and if we're doing on the right side, we'll need to add on 10. That's 5 plus 5. That'll just make sure that we're like within the sprite. Right. Interesting. That should have worked. It's kind of driving me insane. Okay. X minus 5 with plus the height over 2 will be the left side. And on the left side, there we go. So that's working much better. course, there's still a little bit of bugginess to it. Best way to probably resolve that is going to be to make sure you're checking more inside the collisions. Like I said, I've kind of jerry-rigged this just to work. I'm not really focused on making it, as beautiful as possible. But basically what this does is we give it a side, and for the top, we set the X to be the position, the center of the sprite we're giving it. And then we set the Y to be at the top, and then minus a few pixels up just to make sure that we're, well within the sprite. We could probably set that, to be like 2 instead. Maybe that'd give more reliable numbers. We can, of course, just come here and do int float offset is equal to 2, and we'll be able to, play with values to get that running a little bit nicer. If we're on the bottom, we're doing the width in the middle again, and we're doing the height to be that plus, its height, so it's at the bottom, as well as that offset again. And then if we're on the right side, we want to add on the width plus that times 2, because we need to offset from up there. Maybe that'll work a little bit better. I don't know. I'm not too worried with it. Part of it seems to be that the collisions are not quite precise enough. There's slight offsets for everything. If we probably add on, another 10 pixels, that would make it like super sensitive to all that. Yeah, a little bit better now. And of course, we can add in some other stuff. Final thing we need to go over now is scoring. So real quick, let's go through and do one more thing. Part of what's going on, I think, is that it is getting within certain areas. So there we go. Now it's a lot more precise, as you can see. So that should eliminate the last of the issues with that. So let's go through now. We got a nice little collision system going. So let's go through and we can work on adding in the score. So what we'll want to do is we'll want to tie in the score system with the ball. So let's do score times score. Change this to score dot h private score, and we'll come over to this. Here we'll do this, score, and what we can do now is come down to here, and every time we hit an enemy, we'll just increment the score. There's that, and that's going to error out because we didn't pass that in. Right there. Just do this, score. So now if we come in here, we have it so that we get a score count every time we hit something. Now, of course, that's pretty cool and all, but we can actually do some other fun little things. You'll remember that I said that that these guys are just more enemies, so we can actually come in here and increment the health to like 5. And so now every ball is going to take 5 hits, or every brick's going to take 5 hits to kill. So you can see now that we have bricks that have a little bit more to them and stuff, which makes things a little trickier. I'm not going to keep that in. We can, of course, add random colored bricks and stuff. The last thing I want to do, though, however, is I want to go through and have our live system set up. So let's come here to his stuff there. We'll have lives. So I'm going to bring that over here. And we'll do lives. So there's that. And what we'll want to do is... That was the wrong section, wasn't it? That was. Totally put that in the wrong section. Haha. So we actually want that to be there with ball as well. Are you... Yeah, we can actually go through and do that real quick. I can show you guys how we can do a texture every time, a texture change every time it breaks a little bit more. So let me go through and do that in just a second. I want to get this last little thing finished off first. So we have that, and basically when we are with this check here, if we are past the Windows bottom part, then we want to first off this lies remove life. So what that'll do is that'll go ahead and do that. For now, we'll just have it bounce off when we lose a life instead. So there's that. So what you'll see is that when that happens, we lose a life. And what we'll do is we'll make it so that when the lives are all gone, it, ends the game. It's already in there from the previous game. You press enter and it restarts. So there's all of that. Obviously we could set the ball back to its starting position, which I think is just the center of the screen. Out there, right here. So we'll come here real quick. And we will just do this. Set position to that. So there's that, all set to go. That'll reset the ball's position each time. Go ahead and let that end. Probably want to set the direction to F. Set the position to reset as well, going up towards the top left. So there's that. So what we'll want to do now for the health system. So what we're going to want to do is come down here and do INT max health. Basically we'll make this kind of a percentage type thing. So our health is equal to 1, this equal to 1. And what will happen is every time we do damage, we will switch based on what the how much we've decremented by. So what we can do, you know, is in this case switch this max health minus this health case, you know, case 1, for example. We have 1 left. That should be like a critical thing. So what we'll do is we can, of course, set this to be a different image. What we'll do is we'll just do it color-based instead for right now. I'm not going to do anything else. What we'll do is we'll set it so that this normal color, set color, so we'll set the color normally to like a bluish color, and we'll increment an RGB value every time. So the more red a brick gets, the more closer to death it is. So in this case, what we're going to want to do is first get the color of the brick is equal to this get color dot R plus equals, and we'll just go 1. I think it's ints, right? Yeah. And then the blue so if we're there, what we'll want to do is we'll want to set that to 255 and not to 0. So that'll be pure red. Set color to color. So that'll be for when we're down to, when they're down to 1 health. When they are down, actually we'll want to set that to 0. So if they have, you know, 2 hits left, so that's when they have no hits left. You know, if they get 1 more hit, they're dead. In this case, what we'll do is we'll set the color to be, you know, I don't know, like 128 and 128. And that'll be more of a magenta color. So now if we come here and we set that to 2, for example, per brick. Yeah. Do that. So now you'll see all of the bricks are red there. What we'll want to do, you can see now that they turn red as we go through and hit them. And if we set that to 3, you should see them go to magenta instead. That's weird. Color, this minus max health. Ah. Oops, sorry. So case 0, sorry, I put myself mixed up. That should be 255, that should be 0. So, when we are max health, it's blue. When we've lost 1 health, we'll go to that, and when we've lost 2 health, we'll go, you know, to 255 and 0. Meaning that the bricks have 1 piece of health left. You can see now that they slowly go to different colors as we destroy them. We can actually get in between them, which is kind of a neat effect. So yeah. Of course, we could go through and add in noise of sound effects as well. Let's go through, and every time the ball hits something, what we'll do, what is it? It's like SF sound. Include SFML / audio. Buffer. Here, this sounds equal to new SF sound buffer. And just like load file, yeah. And there should be a play. So I think I already have a sound we can use. Sounds. And then you also need a SF sound, we'll change that to buffer. Sound, buffer. And then this sound is the new SF sound. This sound buffer. And then come over here to bounce. Play. You guys should be able to hear it as well. Let me just double check. Very satisfying sound. So can everybody hear that sound effect? Go ahead and post in the chat if you can. And if not, I'll go ahead and up it. But that's our basic sound. Don't forget as well, however, that we also have to clean up everything. So we'll need to come down here and do a wall method. This sound, delete this sound, sound buffer. I think, yeah, there's no delete. There we go. So that'll make sure we free up all of our resources since we got them with new. Cool, yeah. So that is my very, very simple sound effect that I'm sadly very proud of. Yeah, so there's all of that. And that's our basic game. The very last thing that we need to do is we need to double check when all of these are destroyed. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to come into main game as our last thing. We'll have an integer called brick count. And what brick count is going to do is it's just going to contain however many bricks we've created. So in this case, what we'll do is we'll do this is equal to 0, and we'll just add on 1 each time. This will be a little bit slower because we're, having to do multiple operations. An easier way to do this, it's not really going to make that big of a difference, but it's going to be 16 times 10, so with height. And then every time we destroy a brick, we'll want to make sure that we keep track of that. So an easy way to do that is going to be to come into here to our enemy, and we'll want to basically have a counter that we can access that basically says, okay, or external item that will let us to basically jerry-rig when an enemy's been killed. So we'll brick destroyed, and this is going to be kind of an interesting trick. Basically, we can use that as a way to count how many bricks have been destroyed, and then we'll set that back to 0 every time we've used that. So we'll come down here to the main game, and basically what we'll do is we'll say if brick count minus equals that, brick destroyed is equal to 0. If this brick count equal to 0, then what we're going to want to do is down here somewhere, here it is, false, it winning or win screen? Win screen. There's that. Okay. And finally we come over here to enemy and we do xturn int bricks destroyed. And down here plus equals 1. And I'm not going to bother doing all of that. What we're going to do is we're just going to make a single brick. Because I don't feel like going through and testing that. Should probably go ahead and give that 1 health as well. And got that nice little effect every time it hits something. That's not gonna... Oh, that will. So, we have one little issue. Probably because we are not returning here. There we go. Trying to update things that are destroyed. You win! We should probably test that we can play the game the second round, so let's try that. Oh, man. Ta-da! So there's all of that. We'll go through now. Make sure you add in that return. And we are done. We have our basic little game. Is there anything that people want to suggest I add in real quick before I go? That's a pretty basic rundown of the game. You know, we can add in more bricks. And we can, of course, make the ball appear a little bit lower, so by default it's not so easy, but I kind of like how that works. So, if there's any questions people have, feel free to post them in the chat. I'll be going over some questions for the next about 5-10 minutes or so. So if you have any questions, post them below in the chat, and I will get to them as best as I can. Oh, we lost. We want the ball to be higher velocity and not impair the bricks. Okay, that's a pretty easy fix. So what we'll want to do now is we'll want to fix that. It's pretty easy. We just come here, and rather than doing by 4, we'll do by about 8, and that will instead make it appear get size minus that over 8. There we go. So that'll start from down there instead, so that it looks a little bit nicer. So since I know that was a comment. And then we just have to come here as well and make sure that when the ball is off the screen, that we also set it up there to be better. As far as velocity goes, that's a pretty easy fix as well. We just come up here and we can multiply that by 3 again. I think that was a pretty good speed. So we'll go through and we'll do that then. So main player, we'll update his velocity. Speed to, he should always be faster. You want to give the player a slight advantage. And there we go. So there's that, and finally, where's that? So velocity to negative speed. Just come here and do this. Is our basic little breakout clone. Again, this is all pretty rushed through. I'm not really focused on making it super practical right now. But just so you guys know, the next few videos are going to be focused a little bit more on polish. That way I can go through and show how you can make some of these games a little bit more playable and such. But for now, I think that is it for today. So I am off. I need to go and get ready for a date with my girlfriend for our 2-year anniversary. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know it's not, you know, the most brilliant thing, but I really wanted to show how we can go through and repurpose our old engine for something new. You know, there's a lot of little things in there that were a little bit different. We need to be able to detect the sides of collisions and stuff. So I think that that'll be a good change. I'm just going to push this all at once. So next weekend, I am going to be streaming a little bit more polished stuff for the next few weekends. I will be trying to stream during the week and just make some simple little fun games. Nothing too complex, just some basic things to keep me on my toes. Hope you guys enjoyed these. The GitHub repository is linked below, so feel free to check that out. Yeah, thank you for tuning in today. See you guys later.